What if you need to control ProPresenter from other software on the network, like, say, Ableton Live or MultiTracks Playback software or something similar? How do you do that? Well, stick around and find out. Presented by Church Tech U, it's the ProPresenter Show. On today's show, how to control ProPresenter from other software using MIDI. Hi, and welcome again to the ProPresenter Show. This is the show where I teach all about ProPresenter. My name is Paul Allen Clifford. And before we get started, if you've been trying to figure out how to sync up everything with Ableton Live or Playback or Logic or whatever you're using, and you're just at a loss, well, tell me about it in the comments below. So this is one of those things that I've been meaning to make a tutorial on for I don't know how long, forever, I guess. And so I decided I was finally going to bite the bullet, get everything set up, including a Windows machine. I know, crazy talk, and do that. So let's head over to the computer and we'll take a look. So here we are in ProPresenter, but first we need something else in order for this to work. So if I go here and do a search for audio MIDI setup, that's in fact what we need. And I've already set this up, but basically what I did was I clicked the little down button here. You may need to go up here to Window and Show MIDI Studio is what it might say if you can't actually see this. This is the window we're looking for. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, it's going to look a little different in Windows, and we're going to look at that in just a second. So Windows people, hang on. You know, I love you too. They're all tools, so that's what we're talking about. Okay, so anyway, and by the way, yours is going to look very similar to this, so do pay attention. So basically, what I did was I clicked on this down arrow and I selected New Configuration. Once I did that, it popped up looking like this. So then I clicked on this little globe icon right here, Configure Network Driver, and I'm just going to click on it, and I gave it a name, in this case today's date, just so that I was sure that it wasn't something that I'd done a while back, which may or may not have been right. It probably was, but I've been playing with stuff. And then I wanted it to be available for anyone here on the network, and then I gave it a name, 2026 0410 network session, just to make it obvious. What I probably ought to do is just copy that here, because this is not my 16-inch computer. That's a totally different computer that's actually right there. So we'll do that, and then participants is Paul Windows, which I'm going to show you how to set up here in just a second. Once you get that set up, you'll probably want to make sure that it's got the in and out networking session all set up right here, and then you should be good to go. So in macOS, you can actually quit out of this if you wanted to. I'm just going to hide that window, but then on the, well, let's first go over to Windows. So let me do that real quick. So here we are in Windows, and tried to use the mouse, and I don't have a KVM, so I have to pull it. Okay, yes, I am using Windows on a Mac laptop, but it's an Intel Mac, if that helps you. Okay, so let me move my keyboard out of the way here, and we'll bring this up and do it like this. Okay. I actually should have mirrored the screens, but anyway, so here we are, and this is what we're using, rtpMIDI. Now notice this looks a whole lot like audio MIDI setup on the Mac. You might be wondering where to get it. Just Google rtpMIDI and it should bring it right up. Tobias Erickson is the guy that wrote it. I'm assuming that's the guy, and so you'll need that. So here we go. I'm going to disable this and re-enable it. Yeah, re-enable it. There we go. And then I want anyone here. Okay. And now I'm going to click the little... Okay, so that's not showing for some reason, but you get the gist of it. Now, over here in ProPresenter, basically I went to ProPresenter and then Settings and then Devices, and that brought up this. Then I just clicked to add in the MIDI device, and here, let me disconnect that real quick just to show you the settings. Clicked on this arrow on the right, gave it a name. In this case, MIDI is fine. I could have just called it Network MIDI or whatever. Sources, Paul Windows. Destination, Paul Windows. So sources is where I'm going to get the MIDI command from, and destination is where I'm going to send the MIDI commands to. Now, if I'm only controlling ProPresenter, it's only receiving MIDI commands. So if that's the case, then I could just only select this. And if I was only sending MIDI out of ProPresenter, I could select this. Now, keep in mind, since we're controlling ProPresenter in this tutorial, I've got another one coming where we're going to do the opposite. What I could do is I could turn that off, because actually I said it backwards. I could turn this one off because I'm not sending out of ProPresenter, I'm just receiving commands into ProPresenter. So I'm going to leave both of these on just to so that I don't have to reset it. Go back here and I'm going to click connect, and you'll notice one of one for both in and out, because there's only one of each of those coming in. Now, once you get that set up, click here on MIDI map and you'll get this window here. And there's a couple of important things for you to know. This top section with these three, all you need to send is the note, which is that number or that note, depending on how the software is, and it will do each of these things. You might need to set the intensity to at least 1, but in general, that's all you're going to need for these top 3 sections. The section down here is a little bit different, and what's different about it is right here, and it says you need to change the intensity for the index. So let's say I wanted to select a particular playlist. I would need to send from the other software note 17, which is F1, note 17, F1, and let's say I wanted to select this announcement or this playlist right here, okay, because it's select playlist. Well, that's the first one, so I would need intensity 1. If I had other playlists, which I don't currently, but let's say I had another playlist, I would do intensity 2 for the second playlist, and so on. Same thing down here, playlist item. So if I wanted to select And Can It Be, which is the second item in this playlist, I would send note 18, intensity 2 to select this second one. The way I've got this set up, I'm only going to send the next slide, and assuming that I've still got it set up, one thing you should know is under some circumstances when you're playing around with this, you might need to restart ProPresenter. So I would do this sometime when people aren't looking at it, you know, well ahead of time and everything. Make sure you experiment, get it working. As I say, you may need to restart ProPresenter. But notice right here, last note 12, intensity 1, I sent note 12 from my Mac ProPresenter into this ProPresenter so that I could change slides. So let me hide this. We'll see if this is all set up. Since I was monkeying with it, it could be that it's not. So we're back here on my Mac. Get my mouse over here. There it is. Okay, mouse over here. Hide myself real quick. And basically I went down here and I created this macro that is going to send the command to control the other thing. You would of course do that in Ableton Live or Playback or whatever you're doing with it. I'm just setting this up for the sake of showing you how this is all going to work. So let me hide myself, put my mouse right there, because I'm going to switch back to Windows, and we'll see if this does in fact work. If it does, it should. Oops, I moved my mouse. I'm not used to having two mouses, whatever. Okay, so that's it. And now, if I do that, I expect that we'll go over to this slide right here. So let's see what happens. I'm going to move my mouse off just so that it's obvious if this works. As I say, I was monkeying with things, but so it didn't actually work. Going back here, yes, I did in fact send it. So going back here, yeah, it didn't actually work. So I think that because I was monkeying around with the settings, just to show you what it looks like over here on the Mac version, ProPresenter settings, and devices. Notice I've got 4 of these going. I can disconnect that and reconnect it, and we'll see if that did it. Actually, let me disconnect this. And notice that I'm using both source and destination on the Mac side of things here, using core MIDI device and as a device, and then it's called Windows MIDI. That's all it's called. I did turn on auto reconnect here, but that's good. So now I go back, select connect, and notice it's one of 2. So one of the 2 possible things there. And so that's just sending over the network. So that's kind of an overview of how you would go about setting everything up, whether you're on Windows or on Mac, to control ProPresenter with MIDI. If you like this, you might want a quick start guide. And so I've taken these steps, including the link to rtpMIDI for you. I should say real quick that I'm recording this in April of 2026, and there was an update to Windows 11 that stopped rtpMIDI from working automatically. So if you're still having that problem after you've got that set up, Google that situation in particular. I'm doing this on Windows 10 just because it's old stuff that I don't use every day. So I didn't have that problem at all when I was testing this before we got started, but then I started playing around with stuff and messed it up. But it should be the case that eventually they'll get that sorted out, or maybe it's just a case that you need to go into your go into the list of everything that's running and restart it or something like that. I've seen people say, oh yeah, got it to work, I just had to restart the process, and that's all of that. So anyway, I'm going to put all of that into a guide, and you can find that guide if you head on over to tdm.fyi/pro gifts, and gifts is spelled GIFTS. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford from TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com, reminding you to go out and change eternity.